We lay low, for bullets flew thick around us, and we seemed to be fair targets for the sharpshooters. But we returned their fire with an energy and determination that must have convinced them that we were at least soldiers. We had advanced nearer to the foe than we should have done, and were in danger of being cut off from the main body of our army by rebel cavalry. And the 20th Iowa was ordered. Hi, my name is Bill Coughlin, and host of First Person Civil War podcast. While the generals of both sides get most of the recognition, the Civil War was fought by the men in the ranks, and they told their stories during and after the war. Follow me as I reveal what these men witnessed in the battles of the Civil War. To mark 2 years of the podcast, I have for you another special episode. But this one is different. This episode focuses on the incomplete story of one soldier, and will try to expound on who he was, his fate, but also examine the primary source. Episode 57 is entitled The Unknown Soldier of the 19th Iowa, and relies on this man's diary edited into a book entitled The Diary of an Unknown Soldier, September 5, 1862, to December 7, 1862, found on a battlefield, published by Elisa Vaught in 1959. What is an unknown soldier? A common scenario of the unknown soldier is that of a man killed in action, whose remains were recovered from a battlefield with no means of accurately identifying his name or where he came from. Though unknown, the soldier receives the utmost respect and honor in his country of origin. At Arlington National Cemetery in the United States lie the remains of an unknown soldier from World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. These 3 caskets represent all the unknown soldiers from their respective conflicts. But this is not the only memorial to unknown soldiers in the United States. There are, in fact, tombs to unknown soldiers of the Revolutionary War and the Civil War in several places across the country. In Pennsylvania and Virginia are tombs to Revolutionary unknowns, while Arlington also houses the remains of Union and Confederate unknown soldiers from several battlefields across Virginia in a tomb known as the Civil War Unknowns Monument. And finally, in Biloxi, Mississippi, is the tomb of the unknown Confederate soldier, which contains the remains of a man killed during the Vicksburg campaign. For all these unknown soldiers, human remains were found on the battlefield, but in the case of the unknown soldier of the 19th Iowa, no body was recovered, only his diary. The diary was missing its cover and the first 2 pages, which undoubtedly had the unknown soldier's name and maybe his company or regiment. Of the pages that were intact, several were stained by mud, blood, or both, leaving several lines unintelligible. Though incomplete, the diary does have enough information to place the unknown soldier within the 19th Iowa at the Battle of Prairie Grove. An anonymous diary found on the battlefield poses questions which may not have many answers. Was this diary found on the ground blowing in the wind among several Union dead? Was it next to a ransacked bag abandoned on the field? Did the unknown soldier even die at the Battle of Prairie Grove? I will try to answer at least the last question, but first, some background on the 19th Iowa. The 19th Iowa formed in August of 1862 in the town of Keokuk, just 2 months after President Lincoln's call for 150,000 more troops. For the men of Company A, like most in the regiment, they hailed from counties in the southwest corner of the state. The unknown soldier of the 19th Iowa boarded a riverboat bound for St. Louis, which arrived there on 5 September. The entire regiment and by his estimate, approximately 19,000 soldiers quartered at the Benton Barracks in St. Louis. And it was on 9 September that the unknown soldier provides a hint as to which company he belonged to within the 19th Iowa. September 9th, 1862. Received our company flag today from Keokuk through the American Express Company. It is a very fine one, purchased by J.J. Bishop of Keokuk and presented to us by 3 ladies of that place. A meeting of the company was called, and C.H. Judd selected to present the flag on the part of the donors. O.G. Birch to receive it and respond on the part of the company. Alyssa Vaught, who edited the diary into a book, did some research into who the unknown soldier was and helps us narrow our focus to Company A of the 19th Iowa. The unknown soldier's account matches an article from a newspaper in Keokuk, which published a letter of thanks from Company A's commander. It thanks the 3 women who traveled to Benton Barracks and that they presented the company flag to the very same J.J. Bishop. Our unknown soldier marching in Company A is convincing, and Eliza believed there were 2 more clues that could narrow this down even further, which we will address. But let us first discuss why the unknown soldier in the 19th Iowa had to march to Arkansas. Following the Battle of Pea Ridge, both Union and Confederate armies shifted the weight of both commands toward the Mississippi. By the summer of 1862, Major General Thomas C. Hindman was in command of the Confederate Trans-Mississippi District and rebuilt the army in Arkansas with the purpose of marching into Missouri, which he did that September. Union forces across Missouri and Kansas began to maneuver in response to the Confederates, which included the unknown soldier and the 19th Iowa. Rolla, Missouri, September 11, 1862. Left the barracks at 9 o'clock this morning. Proceeded to the Pacific Depot 4 miles distant through a heavy rain, which was peculiarly interesting, particularly when it had saturated us to the skin, and unable to get farther, ran in little rivulets down our back. And those poor fellows who had no holes in their boots to let it out were compelled to carry double rations of water. Arriving at the depot, where we remained some 2 hours, shivering with cold and eating hard bread, and singing Old John Brown, Glory Hallelujah, etc. The cars were ready for our presence, which required under the Railroad Conscript Act 50 soldiers to a car. By early December, after maneuvering in the region, the Union Army was in 2 separate columns. Major General Blunt's division in northwest Arkansas, and 2 divisions under Brigadier General Herron in southwest Missouri. The unknown soldier in the 19th Iowa marched in Colonel William W. Orms's 2nd Brigade, of Brigadier General Francis J. Herron's 3rd Division, of the Army of the Frontier, commanded by Major General James G. Blunt. Within the same division as the 19th Iowa was the 1st Brigade, which contained the 20th Wisconsin and the 1st Iowa Cavalry, among other regiments. And these 2 are important to know for the coming battle and afterward. With the Union Army divided, Major General Thomas C. Hindman, commander of the 1st Corps Trans-Mississippi Army, saw an opportunity to attack this separated Union force and eventually take the fight into Missouri. However, his attempt at the Battle of Cane Hill proved inconclusive, and the separate Union Army was now concentrating to deal with the threat. For the unknown soldier and the 19th Iowa, it meant days of hard marching. Camp at Crane Creek and Cassville, Missouri, December 3rd and 4th. Orders received today at 10 a.m. to be ready to march at 12 o'clock. For some reason, we did not start until 3 p.m., so we were pretty well tired out before we began our march, and I was about to give out when dark came. And so with 2 or 3 others, we camped on our own account by a big warm fire. The Wisconsin, that is, the 20th, were in the lead today, the 19th bringing up the rear. They marched to a point, thinking they were in the lead, and he continues, "We were informed that our boys had left several hours before, so we hastened on and after passing one of the most fatiguing days of marching, carrying my knapsack and almost entirely giving out, arrived at camp at Cassville, swearing I would make a pack horse of my back no longer. Marched the 3rd and 4th, 37 miles. This march made by the unknown soldier and the 2 divisions under Brigadier General Herron is quite the achievement. On 5 December, they marched another 26 miles, and on 6 December, 29 miles, a total of 92 miles over the Boston Mountains in 4 days. Despite many soldiers falling out of ranks due to exhaustion, a significant amount of Brigadier General Herron's command had arrived in the vicinity of Fayetteville, Arkansas, but had not yet made a junction with Major General Blunt and his division. Major General Hindman understood that the Union Army, though both columns were relatively close, were still divided by several miles. In the early morning of 7 December, the Confederates began marching toward Prairie Grove, with the intention of engaging Brigadier General Herron's tired divisions before turning their attention on Major General Blunt. The first Confederates to arrive at Prairie Grove was the cavalry, which discovered Union cavalry in the vicinity. The Battle of Prairie Grove had begun. During this cavalry engagement, Brigadier General Herron's divisions were already marching down the Fayetteville-Cane Hill Road, leading toward Prairie Grove. The unknown soldier and the 19th Iowa were about to enter their first engagement. Left camp at daylight, and after proceeding some 5 miles, heard the booming of cannon in the distance, which made us think there was some fun ahead, in which we must soon participate. A few miles farther on, a considerable amount of the 1st Arkansas Cavalry, a Union regiment, came rushing by at the top of the speed of their horses, some without hats or coats. In fact, they were perfectly panic-stricken, and rushed in pell-mell haste past us. The Confederate cavalry crossed the Illinois River to continue their pursuit of the Union cavalry, but eventually ran into Brigadier General Herron's divisions, which included the unknown soldier and the 19th Iowa. Some 2 miles from the scene of today's conflict, we were drawn up in battle array. Skirmishers sent forward, who reported no enemy, and were pressed forward again by double quick marches to reach the foe who had made a sudden dash upon the Arkansas cavalry, who were ignorant of their close proximity of the enemy, were taken completely by surprise, and their entire train captured. I will drop the preliminaries for the present, and enter into details of today's battle, which we were ushered into as soon as we crossed a stream called the Illinois River. And tonight, when ordered from confusion is hardly restored, I can give but a faint sketch of the battle, which must be resumed here in the morning. Just as a quick note, the unknown soldier here is riding after he has seen his first ever combat on the skirmish line, but he is riding in haste, as the Battle of Prairie Grove is still happening. This is apparent in the very next line of his diary, where he seems to be in the same thought as the previous sentence. Tonight, we rest from the conflict upon the outskirts of the battlefield. The booming of cannon and the noise of musketry has ceased. This is speculation on my part, but the unknown soldier is riding while Confederate artillery is actively engaging Union regiments, who were about to form for an advance, which included the 19th Iowa. He seems to be in a similar thought process about what he intends to do that evening. Perhaps it was the impact of an artillery shell in his vicinity that made him write in such a similar way. Whatever the reason, the unknown soldier immediately delves back into the battle in the next paragraph, as he recounts his time on the skirmish line. Since 12 o'clock, the battle is raged. With fury, the artillery opened from either side, and the infantry poured its incessant volleys in quick succession. The 19th, 20th, and 94th Illinois are put in battle array. Our company, acting as skirmishers, took possession in a corn and stubble field directly opposite one of the enemy's batteries. Major Daniel Kent of the 19th Iowa, who took command of the regiment during the battle, confirms that Company A went on the skirmish line. The 19th Regiment, 500 strong, was ordered into line of battle at 12 p.m. Lieutenant Colonel McFarland in command. By order of Colonel Orme, who was their brigade commander, 3 companies were detached and deployed as skirmishers. There were companies A, B, and C, and, owing to the circumstance, Lieutenant Root, acting adjutant of the regiment, was ordered to take command, which was done. The skirmishers advanced under a heavy fire to a cornfield on the right of Battery E, 1st Missouri Light Artillery, and were ordered to hold it at all hazards, which was done until ordered to fall back and form in line of battle. By this time, Brigadier General James F. Fagan's Brigade of Arkansans occupied the part of the battlefield in front of the unknown soldier and the 19th Iowa skirmishers. We lay low, for bullets flew thick around us, and we seemed to be fair targets for the sharpshooters. But we returned their fire with an energy and determination that must have convinced them that we were at least soldiers. We had advanced nearer to the foe than we should have done, and were in danger of being cut off from the main body of our army by rebel cavalry, and the 20th Iowa was ordered. This was the last entry of the diary. Eventually, the 3 companies of skirmishers were recalled to the 19th Iowa, and the unknown soldier hastily jotted down what he just experienced while skirmishing with the Arkansans. There truly is no time to write in a diary here, because in his final half-finished sentence, he made a mistake. The 20th Iowa was on the battlefield, but approximately a mile to the west. The 20th Wisconsin, just to his right, was forming in line to march forward, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Henry Bertram, who was also in command of the 1st Brigade, 3rd Division. I then ordered the 20th Wisconsin to move cautiously forward. They advanced about 500 yards across an open field. Here, I ordered them to lie down under cover. Receiving information that a heavy force of the enemy was threatening my left flank, I immediately changed front to the left. The 19th Iowa and 94th Illinois, following up the movement, brought us in echelon, the 20th Regiment leading on the right. These regiments were about to walk into a destructive fire dealt by the Arkansans, as Major Kent of the 19th Iowa attested in his report. The regiment was then ordered to advance to the left to the White House on the hill to support the 20th Wisconsin Infantry, which was hotly engaged. The 19th, led by Lieutenant Colonel McFarland, advanced up the hill steadily and across the orchard back of the house. When the 20th Wisconsin gave way, the 19th still advanced to the fence adjoining the wood. When the enemy, who laid concealed, arose to their feet, 3 regiments deep, pouring a destructive fire on us from 3 sides, which caused the regiment to waver and fall back to the battery on the left of the road leading up the hill. Lieutenant Colonel McFarland here fell, shot through the body. I then took command and rallied what was left of the regiment, as the regiment was met with severe loss in the charge. The routing of the 20th Wisconsin and the 19th Iowa was confirmed in Major General Hindman's report, who provided the summary in lieu of division or brigade commander reports. At 1 p.m., aided by a tremendous artillery fire, the infantry of Herron's command advanced against the position held by Shoup and Marmaduke. It was permitted to approach within 60 yards, and then, as it charged, making gallantly past one of our batteries, and having it a moment in possession, Fagan's Arkansas Brigade, part of McRae's division, and the Missourians, under Shelby, delivered a terrific fire from their shotguns, rifles, and muskets, and charged the enemy furiously. Hawthorne's regiment retook the battery. The Federals broke and fled. It was somewhere in the advance of the 19th Iowa, or even in its retreat, that the unknown soldier lost his diary, but I don't believe he died on the battlefield. The 19th Iowa suffered 45 killed, 145 wounded, and 3 missing. 193 men out of 500 in the ranks, a 39% casualty rate. According to regimental documents, 2 of the wounded came from Company A. There was Robert C. Anderson, who recovered from his wounds and served for the rest of the war, and John H. Mallett, who got his left leg amputated and died of his wounds on 30 December 1863. Though the 19th Iowa retreated from the field, the battle continued, but this regiment was effectively done for the day. It was after this failed advance that Major General Blunt and his division, marching from the west, arrived on the field, and the 2 separated Union commands now joined against the Confederates. This included the 1st Iowa Cavalry, detached from its regular brigade, which included the 20th Wisconsin, and temporarily attached to Major General Blunt's division before the battle began. By the evening of 7 December, fighting around Prairie Grove ceased, with both sides holding their original positions. Though the Confederates held firm throughout the day, Major General Hindman had no choice but to depart the battlefield. Considering that my men were destitute of food, their wagons 30 miles in the rear, and not to be brought forward without imminent danger of being lost, that my supply ammunition was reduced far below what was necessary for another day's fighting, and that my battery animals were literally dying of starvation and could not be foraged in the presence of a superior force of the enemy, I determined to retire and gave the necessary orders for that purpose. As 8 December dawned across Prairie Grove, both armies observed a 12-hour truce, and the Confederates began departing at noon. The Union Army of the frontier would remain on the battlefield for several days, as stragglers from Brigadier General Herron's column, which included men from the 19th Iowa, were still arriving from the forced march from Missouri. The men got to work tending to the wounded of both sides and burial of the dead. As the Army of the Frontier remained on the battlefield, the 19th Iowa marched back to the same position of which they broke in retreat on 7 December, while other regiments, like the 1st Iowa Cavalry, camped in the same vicinity. At the beginning of the book, Elsa Vaught provides the context of how the diary was discovered. This diary was found on a battlefield. It is reasonable to suppose that it was the Prairie Grove battlefield. How it came into possession of Captain George Washington Hill, a federal officer, is not known. It came into the possession of Mrs. J. E. Van Ripper, mother of Gertrude Winder, who now has the diary, from an older sister, the widow of the captain. A quick search through military records, which were not as readily available when the book published in 1959, reveals that there was one man at the Battle of Prairie Grove by the name of George Washington Hill, a private in the 1st Iowa Cavalry. While searching through Fold 3, a website that holds military records across several conflicts, the page with Private Hill's information states that he was later assigned to the 3rd Iowa Cavalry, but there is little information when that transfer happened and whether he became a captain at that time. So who was the unknown soldier of the 19th Iowa? Elsa Vaught believed he was Corporal Charles H. Judd, and here is her reasoning. The first clue places the unknown soldier in Company A, and Corporal Judd was on its rolls. Enlisted as a private, the diary marks his promotion in early October. C. H. Judd was appointed a corporal in place of O. G. Birch. In the footnotes, she claims this is the second clue. Elsa Vaught gives a lot of weight to the final clue that Corporal Judd was the unknown soldier. But it was at this critical point of the diary that a stain of mud or blood smudged the ink, leaving lines around it not completely legible, but references a promotion. Was Corporal Judd the unknown soldier? While I agree that he was in Company A of the 19th Iowa, I am not as convinced it was this man. Corporal Judd's legible name appears twice in the unknown soldier's diary, each time in conjunction to an event that happened in the company, receipt of the company flag, and a promotion. Throughout the diary, the unknown soldier refers to himself in the first person, like on 28 November. Signed clothing bill today, which I will put down as an item which is proving such to me at any rate. Overcoat, $7.20. Pants, $3.03. Dress coat, $6.71, etc. Without a legible reference of the unknown soldier describing himself as a corporal, I believe there is not enough information that the diary belonged to Corporal Judd. Eliza Vaught believed the third clue was convincing, not only because it matches the date of Judd's promotion to corporal, but also in the way the unknown soldier felt after the promotion. I felt like hallooing today, for I was full of patriotism, but I held it in, for fear he might not like it. Even with this line, there is not enough information. It could indeed be Corporal Judd expressing excitement for his promotion, but it could also be the unknown soldier being happy for Corporal Judd, and chose not to show outward praise because he, meaning Corporal Judd, may not like it. What I am certain of is that the unknown soldier was unable to finish writing about his time on the skirmish line before he had to form in line with Company A to advance with the rest of the 19th Iowa. At some point in the fight, the diary dropped on the ground, whether in the advance of approximately 1 mile while he was loading and firing his musket, or even in the retreat to Union lines. If he was wounded, there was no way for him to recover the diary. But if he survived the Battle of Prairie Grove unscathed, I have no doubt that the unknown soldier sought to recover it while the army remained on the battlefield. With either scenario, he would never see his diary again. It was instead recovered by Private George Washington Hill of the 1st Iowa Cavalry, who kept the diary in his family and eventually published into a book in 1959. Thank you for listening to the 57th episode. The link to the Unknown Soldier's book is now available on the podcast website, firstpersoncivilwarpodcast.com. On Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn this week, you will find a picture of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, which commemorated all Iowans that fought during the Civil War. 2 years of the podcast. I can't believe I'm at this point. Whether this is your first episode you've listened to, have listened since the beginning, or discovered the podcast sometime in between, I want to thank every one of you for listening. To this day, I continue to find Union and Confederate memoirs and regimental histories, so I see no end in sight for want of source material. If you would like to support the podcast financially, I encourage you to follow the support podcast link on the website. Going into the 3rd year of the podcast, expect regular episodes every 2 weeks, with special episodes appearing throughout the year. Something I began last year, but want to continue, is adding more short-form battlefield reports on YouTube and Instagram, so be sure to follow the podcast on those platforms. This next episode will be unique compared to all others before it, as the podcast broadens into a time considered a prelude to the Civil War, Bleeding Kansas, as it follows a man who would eventually join the Confederate Army. In 2 weeks' time, Orderly Sergeant Robert Hamilton Williams of the Company of Mounted Rangers, Atchison's Border Ruffians, provides next episode's first-person account at the 1856 sacking of Lawrence, Kansas. My name is Bill Coughlin, and thank you for listening to First Person Civil War Podcast.